How's it, guys? And welcome back to another episode of the PH Journals podcast. Firstly, I just want to start off by saying I am so sorry for the stuffiness you guys might hear over the microphones. With the change of season, my sinuses and my allergies are at full tilt. But that does mean one good thing, that the rutting season is in full swing. Impala, kudu, warthog, just to name a few. So, if you are watching this or listening to this from South African perspective, guys, be safe out on the roads. The amount of animal encounters on the roads, the amount of people that have hit kudu in the past 2 weeks that I've seen personally has been intense, absolutely insane. The numbers, I'm pretty sure, are going through the roof. So if you guys are traveling at night or early morning, late evening, guys, please take it easy. It's not lacquer. I know this is a whole thing that we've just got to try and adapt to their lifestyle and to ours. But just keep your eyes in and ears open out on the roads and be safe out there, please. It's a very delicate part of the year. With that being said, that kind of ties in pretty perfectly with my theme that I've gone for tonight. Just before we carry on, top 20. The podcast has reached top 20. Top 20 hunting podcast on FeedSpot. It's been an absolutely incredible journey, and I want to take this opportunity to thank each and every single one of you guys listening to this podcast that has had any form of contribution, whether it's just even interacting, liking, sharing, subscribing to my channel. It means the world to me. I've said this time and time again. If somebody had told me 5 years ago that this is where the podcast would be standing, I kind of would have laughed in their faces. But for it to be a reality now, it's kind of like a dream come true, but it just feels so real at the moment. I'm trying to take it all in. But it's been an incredible journey. I met so many wonderful people, and I'm really looking forward to the next 50 years of podcasting. But just once again, guys, just thank you so much. And if you haven't yet, there is only one thing I ask, and that's just to support the channel. It helps me bring better content to everyone else, and it helps me just carry on doing this. As small as it is, or as small as it may seem, it's huge in the bigger spectrum of things. Whether you're just liking it or subscribing to my channel, it means the world to me. It really does, and it goes such a long way. So there's just one thing I may ask, and that's, please, if you are listening, watching on whatever platform, if you just like, share, and subscribe or follow it, it will mean the world to me, really and truly. Guys, so before I get into this week's theme or topic, a couple of things have happened. I'm heading out on Sunday for my first safari for Utando Safaris this weekend. I'm really looking forward to this one. It's Zach and Lacey's first time to Africa, and I can't wait to give them one hell of an experience. I'm really, really excited about this one. We've got a full squad of people coming out. We've got the TV guys coming, the camera guys from Wildsmith Media. I'm really looking forward to this one. And first hunt of the season. I'm pretty pumped. And then, I had just a big shout out to Huntex South Africa. Thank you so much for the invite last weekend. I had so much fun meeting, seeing new people, seeing new faces, taking photos. It was really a blast, and I look to do the next couple of years with you guys, so I'm really looking forward to that. And then of course, to all the hunters in South Africa, if you haven't yet, head along to the Treason Pro Staff team page, where you guys may have the unique opportunity to join the Treason Pro Staff team. Those of you that know and have followed my personal journey would know that treason has played an intricate part in my career and development as a hunter, and I really look forward to giving back to them through the Pro Staff program. It's one of the first of its kind in South Africa, and probably one that I'm extremely passionate about. Giving back to a hunting community that's hungry for inclusion, and we're going to get into that now. So without further ado, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the podcast. And it was quite an interesting topic that came to me. those of you that don't know, this podcast episode has probably been about 2, maybe 3 weeks in the making. The reason for that is I've actually, the podcast topic for tonight was brought to me by Hayden. I'm not going to share his last name because, just for reasons. But Hayden brought me a question about raising the issue concerning prices for local South African hunters. And it was such an interesting topic for me because and I'll be honest, I've kind of been brushing it aside because I haven't really found the perfect place to start. But there is no starting point. That's the key thing, is that where do you go to and what is the conclusion? There's no conclusion at this point, and there hasn't really been a starting point to what we are witnessing at the moment. So what I did is, together with Hayden's WhatsApp me a couple of discussions and his point of view. And what I did is I made a couple of phone calls to local farmers in my area, local farmers in the Limpopo region, and then 1 or 2 farmers that farmed macadamia nuts in, I might have it wrong, it's either macadamia or pecan nuts, anyway, in the Natal region. And out of this, I kind of got to paint the picture of exactly what's been happening in our industry as far as a South African hunting perspective, but together with the game farmers. And of course, it just feels like there's 3 parts to this whole thing. There's the South African hunters, there's the middleman, the farmers, and then there are the South African outfitters. And my reason for the topic tonight was to try and play devil's advocate for all 3 of those sectors, right? My idea for this podcast was to have a couple of guys on the episode and actually debate this. But it's kind of hard to debate them all at once in a single sitting, because I kind of think that when people with strong opinions, and trust me when I say this, the people I have spoken to have had intense opinions about this situation. But what I would like, and if anyone's listening to this podcast would like to come onto the episode, whether you are a South African hunter, a farmer, or an outfitter, come onto the podcast and let's sit down and have a conversation. From my point, I will be playing as much of the devil's advocate as I possibly can. Of course, I am biased to certain sides of the discussion, but not all the time. So the purpose of the exercise tonight is to give across my personal opinion to anyone listening to this and understanding where I see fit. Because I'm coming from all 3 of those sectors. I passionately support the farmer. I really do. I honestly believe farmers are one of the most important people we have, not in our hunting conservation practices, but just in our everyday lifestyle. The outfitter, I believe there are some really, really good outfitters out there, and I like to think of Utando Safaris as one of them, and hence why I'm so passionate about South African outfitters. And then, of course, last but not least, the South African hunter. And I'm passionate in this sector because I see myself as one, but I also understand that as South African hunters, our practices, morals, ethics, and values we bring to the hunting discussion isn't always what it seems to be. And so I will, we'll get into those different topics. So Hayden came to me and he sent me a message, and I appreciate people interacting with the podcast. I really, really do, because not only, number one, it means that they're supporting it, but number 2, it just opens up for a different perspective. And like I said, I had this topic on the tip of my tongue for some time, and I kind of pushed it aside until I kind of forgot about it. And then when it resurfaced, I was like, you know what, I actually just need to sit down and do a little bit of homework and do a little bit of research, which I duly did. And I was very fortunate. I met some great people. I had conversations with 2 wonderful guys that I've never met in my life before. I actually got their contact details through some of the price lists I downloaded off online pages, and I got to the discussion. So getting to the point, the whole idea of this was to understand, as a South African hunter, it's kind of become unaffordable for South African hunters to hunt our very own country. And I see this point and I understand it. And Hayden highlighted the fact not only are the animals astronomically priced, but so too is the work and the labor afterwards. And what he means by this is the butcher. The butcher is taken, or the secondary hand that touches that carcass is the people that work their meat. I don't like working meat. I've never been good at it. So I like to have other people do it for me. But after my fellow deer hunt, I actually realized, and it was a big eye-opener, I didn't pay too much attention to it because when I go hunting, I kind of set that budget aside and say, okay, look, I understand an animal's going to cost me X amount of money, and then I'm going to have to pay X amount on top of that for the processing. What I didn't realize is the amount of money that we were going to actually spend on just 3 fallow deer. So that was the point, is that why has hunting become unaffordable as far as the South African perspective? But not only the hunting side, the processing side as well. So when I looked at this message, firstly, I said, look, I think as South Africans, we like, especially South Africans, and it's in our nature, we like to push the blame game, right? If nothing's quite working out for us, we kind of blame the next available thing. Because although I still believe South Africans are one of the most resilient nations out there, we still need somebody to point fingers to, right? It might sound like an ugly thing, but I don't mean it in any negative intention at all. But coming to the hunting point, for instance, I did an exercise. So I got a couple of price lists from around the country, and I came to an average price list. What I did is I took one of the most commonly hunted animals, which surprisingly, and it did shock me, was an eland. Eland female or non-trophy, as a lot of the price lists have. But I took the next best one. Which was the kudu. The kudu was an interesting one going north of the country, because not only is the southern greater kudu a much bigger specimen when it comes to horn size, but body-wise as well. So their average price was a hell of a lot more to our average price. And the reason for that is they actually pay from over 50, I think it's 53 inches or 54 on average. You actually pay per inch on a kudu on majority of the farms. Okay. And when I say farms, I don't mean game farms. I'm actually talking stock farms now. So what has happened is during COVID, right, everyone kind of hit panic stations. The country opened up halfway through the year and everyone kind of needed to not only stock up on meat supplies, but also just kind of get out there, get out into the bush. We've been trapped in our houses for 6 months. We just need some sort of reality just to get out. So everyone head along, and what's the first thing a lot of South Africans do is they want to get into the bush, they want to go fishing, they want to go and do that sort of stuff. So people inquired about prices. Of course, the farmers are going to accept these prices because these hunters, because they're also short on cash, right? The country's been shut down for X amount of time. Meat hasn't been flowing as much as it possibly could through sales of oxen, sheep, whatever they were farming at the time. And for a lot of farmers, especially on the vegetation, on the vegetable side, we're seeing huge losses in kudu actually coming in. And because bear in mind, we've just kind of retreated out of a drought in South Africa. The drought, I think, ended in 2018 or 2019. So the bad habits of these animals were coming down to the land, searching for foraging for food and stuff. So they were in their routine. And again, I'm not making any excuses here, but this is kind of what I anticipated. And please, guys, understand that this is my personal opinion on this whole thing, right? So COVID hit. Everyone hits panic stations. The farmer and hunter build a relationship, and Farmer John says to Yanni, says, listen, or Yanni inquires, says, listen, Farmer John, I want to come out and hunt X, Y, and Z, and one of them is a kudu. He says, yes, sure. How much are you going to pay? No, I'm happy to pay between 8 and 10 grand for a kudu. Farmer John says, cool. Sounds great and sounds wonderful to me. Excuse me. Pays it, gets it done. They build this relationship for 2021. 2021 comes, the industry opens up. It's an absolute boom. It's a bumper year for outfitters across the country. Outfitters have realized that there hasn't been any hunting, or not as much hunting as they have had since the closing of 2019. So around about the September time, you've got the whole of 2020, and then probably 2-3 months into 2021. They need to get rid of stock. So what does the outfitter do? They put massive specials out at these trade shows. They get the hunters to come out. Everyone's open, lockdowns ended, everyone's trying to capitalize on this boom. 2021 is an absolute bumper to bumper year for the South African outfitters and safari industry. And it boils over into 2022. In those 2 years, the relationship between the farmer and the South African hunter has grown. And the South African hunter has filled the beds for the South African farmer, still paying his 8 to 10 grand for a kudu. And this is where it gets tricky, right? Because now 2021 and 2022 happens, bumper year. Outfitters have filled their lodges more than they usually could because they've got to make up for the lost year in COVID, and they've run out of mature stock. They've run out of it. There's no more kudu, as remember, kudu takes 8 to 10 years to mature. If they had 20 shooter bulls, and I know this for a fact because I was one of them, I am to blame. The outfitters put so much pressure on us on the 2021 season that even the 4 to 5 year, 6-year-old bulls were being shot. Those kudu with 1 turn and a turn and a half, that was being shot. And as disgusting as I am into saying that, that's just what was happening. We were put under the knife, we were put under pressure. And do you feel good doing it? No, you don't. You feel terrible. But these are the kudu that were being shot. So now, back around 3 years later, the outfitter has got not a single kudu on his property that he's able to shoot. So what does he do with 2 years inflation? He heads along to the farmer and he says to him, Farmer John, listen, I've run out of kudu, but I'm prepared to pay you 20,000 rand for a kudu bull. If you guarantee me I can take all your bulls available for the year. Say there's 5, I'll take all 5. So now Farmer John reckons, well, he was making 46,000 or 48,000 rand, whatever it may be, 50,000 rand per year. He can now double it and make 100,000 rand if he just sells his 5 kudus to the outfitter. So the South African hunter comes along and says, Farmer John, listen, remember I hunted with you last year. Do you mind if I come again? And I'll be able to pay you 10,000 rand a kudu this year. Farmer John says, you know what, Piti or Yanni, unfortunately not. I've promised it to X, Y, and Z. And unfortunately, I can't let you hunt kudu. But you can come and scratch around for a warthog or whatever the case may be. So now the South African hunter gets shafted down, gets downgraded a little bit, and he can't, unfortunately, no South African hunter, whether you're a trophy hunter or a non-trophy hunter, can afford those sort of prices. Because now the farmer has understood what his stock is. So, okay, he's got 5 this year. Next year he can maybe shoot out another 3 bulls. And then he starts letting everything kind of breed. Good conservation practices, right? It sounds like it. But what happens is that when the farmer doesn't have enough stock to supply the outfitter just shifts on. And then who is it to fill? It's the meat eaters, the meat hunters, to fill those gaps again. So it's a very, very vicious circle that we play in good ethical practices. What should happen is the farmer should highlight, I've got 5 bulls to take off this year. Next year I can take 3. Next year I can take 2. And then so build your stock up. Ethically and theoretically we speaking. But it never happened that way. And that is why we've run into a bit of a crisis where people are scrounging around for places. I'm one of them. People have run out of places to go to for your longer breeding animal, for your longer maturing animals. And what I mean by this is anything from 6 to 10 years old that took 6 to 10 years of maturing. You're struggling to find good quality animals, and I'm speaking about my area now. But naturally, all around. And because the boom happened in 2021, breeders became outfitters. And I've spoken about this on a podcast previously, is that South African breeders that were supplying these game farms good quality genetics. Game farmers didn't have enough money to purchase these animals for the next 3 years. They had to build up the inventory. So what did the breeders do? They said, well, hang on here, guys. I also need to, supplement my income now because you guys aren't buying on a year-to-year basis. There weren't game sales. There was nothing. So I'm just going to open up my own outfitting license and hopefully get 1 or 2 American hunters or overseas hunters to come out and hunt these animals. So the supply chain was taken out. Now all of a sudden we're sitting with a crisis where big outfitters are purchasing animals at astronomical prices and enticing South African farmers to utilize this and take a full advantage of it, which no one can blame them for. Because the South African farmer at the end of the day is probably one of the more important people out of this chain of activities that is happening, because they supply a lifestyle for everyone. So coming back down to pricing, I priced kudu, which on average now for a South African hunter, back then, 2021, 2022, was between 8 and 10,000 rand. I'm talking trophy now. 8 to 10,000 rand. 6 to 8,000 rand on biltong hunters. So 8 to 10,000 rand. Now on average, it's between 15 and 16 for biltong hunters and 16 to 20 for trophy hunters on a kudu bull. Which is fine, because as hunters, that's what we will strive for. Value in the animal, right? But when it becomes too valuable, who benefits out of it? The outfitter and the farmer. What happens to the South African hunter? A primal instinct that's been instilled in us since birth, since day one of us being human beings. A primal instinct in us. Now we've got to deprive ourselves. Yes, of course, there's hundreds of other different species that we can walk out there and actually physically hunt. You can go and hunt a warthog. But with that being said, everything else takes a knock. So because the outfit is prepared to pay more money for the kudu, he's prepared to pay more for the accommodation, he's prepared to pay more for the professional hunter, more for the tracker, he's prepared to tip the individuals better. And ultimately, out of all of that, the farmer sits and smiles because he's receiving all these great benefits. As a South African hunter, average accommodation 2 years ago, well, in 2021, 2022, was 650 Rand per night, 500 Rand bakkie fee, pickup fee, and then an extra 250 to 400 Rand for tracker and skinner, which seems fair. Now, accommodation is 3,500 Rand to 4,000 Rand on average. Bakkie is 2,000 Rand per day, excluding diesel. And then skinner and tracker is 800 to 1,000 Rand per day, which seems fair. But for South Africans, it's too much of a stretch for the average hunter. And that is what breaks my heart. Because as an individual that strives for conservation within South Africa and Africa, the thing I want the most is for as many people, as many South Africans that can afford it, to go out there and experience what our wildlife can deliver for a country. Because not only is it phenomenally healthy for you, it's just one hell of an experience that I think us as human beings in South Africa have been deprived of. So after having this discussion with a bunch of different guys, I went out and this weekend's a perfect example. Friday night, we're having a game auction sale where people can go. It's wonderful for my little community here in Queenstown. People have the opportunity to purchase a ticket. They head along to the sale and they can purchase hunting packages for the year. They have an opportunity to go online and purchase a couple of animals online and then decide for a date during the year where they can go and physically actually hunt these animals. It's incredible. It's a wonderful, wonderful initiative for our local school to raise money through our community. I think it's exceptional. But the problem is, outfitters have heard about this, and I'm one of them. Utando Safaris is one of them. Wanting to capitalize on good quality animals at a fraction of the price. But that is not why I'm going there on Friday. I'm going there to make sure that my fellow South African hunters get the opportunity to hunt. And when prices get to a certain level, I will not be bidding them forward. As much as I believe that it will be great for the school, it will be great for the organization that's organizing this to benefit from the high prices, I do believe that as a South African hunter, you will be missing out at the end of the day. And that's what breaks my heart, because I want South African hunters to enjoy the beauty and the surrounds that we have. For generations we've been doing it, but now it's become a money thing. So on top of that, what's also been happening is the inflation of grocery stores, right? Has put a lot of pressure into the butcher. My 3 fillet deer that I had worked cost me just under 7,000 Rand. Now, to put that into perspective, that's almost $300 for 3 animals to be worked. $100 an animal. And all I had was sausage, ground mince, and patties made. And I don't blame the butcher. I don't at all. I blame the inflation on the goods that we utilized for those animals. But you take that, and it works out to being, for a kudu bull, you would have to pay between 6,000 and 7,000 Rand just to have that carcass processed. So now you've added another 6,000 to 7,000 Rand on top of the 20,000 Rand for a South African to shoot a kudu bull. Growing up in 2020, I had the very fortunate opportunity to sit with Pat Dugan and shoot my very first kudu. But since the age of 13 years old, that has been a dream animal of mine for generations. I can personally say that when my daughter gets to that age, I don't think I would be able to afford it unless something drastic changes. As South Africans, as conservationists, and I do hope that somebody comes out and wants to argue these topics with me, because again, this is my personal opinion, and don't get me wrong, there are some good farmers out there that have built relationships with South African hunters for generations, and they enjoy having the South Africans come out and hunt. And don't get me wrong, there are some wonderful outfitters out there that practice good conservation and lead the conservation flag and fly the conservation flag high. And they're proud of that. And I admire that. I admire a lot of outfitters that do that. There's some really, really good outfitters out there with exceptional conservation practices. And there's some really, really good South African hunters that just want to enjoy the South African bushveld and what it can provide. However, somewhere along the line, we've missed the boat. And it's sad. It's sad to think that. But it's part of reality. How do we come back from this? I don't know. I honestly don't have answers. Because I actually had a discussion today with a good friend of mine, Dylan Thompson, and I really enjoy chatting to him because I think there's just, it's one thing to have a discussion with people and individuals that want to push an agenda, but it's just lacquer to have a discussion that we can bounce different ideas and different opinions of one another. And we were sitting there and we were just saying that single-handedly, not a single individual will be able to save the industry as a whole, but as a collective, we have the opportunity to make a difference so that everyone from South African hunters to the farmer to the outfitter can benefit, and benefit in a positive way. Benefit for our animals and our species for conservation, and benefit financially. I like to tell a lot of people that come and hunt with me, my biggest blessing, and it's something I've learned very quickly in the hunting industry, especially when you're dealing with foreigners coming out. I would rather make nothing. I'd rather make a loss on the hunt, on the safari, so that my clients and the individuals that come out with me leave with a smile on their face and an experience that we'll remember for a very, very long time. And I do believe price has effect. And I've never, even in my basic practices in life, I've never based anything on pricing. But when it comes down to individuals that get deprived of doing something that our country can provide, I feel bad for. And I do want to fight the price. And I do want to fight the boom. I do believe the farmers that we support and pay these prices for animals, I do believe they have an opportunity to make money. But at the same time, I do want to include my South African counterparts, my South African hunters, my fellow hunters, in enjoying these things. The outfitters, I believe, will constantly make money no matter what. No matter what, if you've got good practices, conservation practices, and you really just look after your clients and you run an established and well put together outfit, there's no reason for you not to do well. But for the other two, it becomes a clutch of straws situation. And I feel that's what's happened, is that everyone was clutching at straws, trying to get places to hunt, trying to make deals, and ultimately we kind of lost the connection there. Whereas before, I kind of feel that a lot of South African hunters and farmers had a pretty unique relationship. I mean, still to this day, a lot of the species that I hunt that I don't have on property or whatever it may be, and I phone up the first farmer I've got in my call book or that I know is going to have a good opportunity on an animal, my relationship has always been there. It's always been met with enthusiasm, excitement, fellowship, friendship, whatever you want to call it. And when we get to the property, it's that enjoyment that I get out of it. Other than being able to have been afforded the opportunity to hunt these animals with my clients or by myself, I get to reunite that friendship. And that's been important. That's probably one of the most important things in the hunting industry is camaraderie, because that's what we share. As much as I keep saying it, animals allow you the opportunity to eat healthy, live healthy, and engage with a primal instinct. But it's the experience of those three things that counts as to us as hunters. Everyone thinks it's about the animal lying on the floor. It's not. It's about us enjoying one another's company, because somewhere along the line, we lose that in our everyday life, right? With cell phones, with computers. There's so many distractions out there. We lose those personal attachments that we have to one another as a race. I'm getting a bit deep, but in a nutshell, I don't know what it is or what we're going to have to do to save this situation. Do I want to see a positive outcome? Of course I do. But I want to see a positive outcome for all three. And I think right now, how delicate the industry is, unfortunately, I don't see that happening right now. But who's to say in the next couple of months things might change? And we might have the opportunities to walk along together with farmers and outfitters as a collective and somewhere meet in the middle. Because it is nice to see young kids enjoying the bushveld, enjoying the benefits and the encounters of an hunting experience. There's nothing better for me to see a father and son or father and daughter behind an impala with smiles from side to side, because those stories and those memories last a lifetime. I know that's what happened to me with my first animal. And who are we as an industry to deprive people of that? And I hope one day more of us get to experience that. It's been a dream of mine. So yeah, guys, again, to close off this topic, please just understand that these are my personal viewpoints. Like I said, I've had some time to do a lot of homework on it and kind of understand where everyone's coming from. I don't think I've done a good enough job in arguing every single point, but I've got some points across, and I think, if there's anyone listening to this podcast, I would like to jump on here for a quick conversation and understanding, because that's what it's about. It's about learning the different corners and aspects, different perspectives, different experiences. And that's what I want to do as a podcast. I want to grow through people's discussions, hunting experiences, their full-time experiences that they've had out in the field. Because not only can I learn something from that, but I think a lot of people can. And that's the aim of this podcast. I want as many people to learn about African hunting and conservation as much as possible. Whether you're a local South African hunter or from anywhere overseas. That's been one of my big dreams, is to educate people through I almost said it, one of Africa's biggest hunting podcasts. So guys, sorry, as you can hear, my chest and nose are starting to clog up. Like I said, it's kind of like a bittersweet. I don't want to feel all clogged up and stuffy, but to know that the kudurat is in full swing is kind of, because it reminds me of that time of the year. So yeah, I love it. But once again, I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone. If you've watched this episode, thank you so much. Just a quick update on the prizes and the giveaways. The past couple of weeks have been absolutely insane. So those of you that haven't got your prizes yet, Bossy, I know you're one of them. I'm definitely going to be sending off in the next couple of weeks. I know you're hunting still, so when you're done, hit me up and we'll make a plan. The Scully's giveaway hasn't gone. I haven't done that yet. I will go back and check the comments. I will make sure that it gets done. We have got more prizes to give away, but unfortunately I'm going to pause it for now while things are a little bit hectic. And when things calm down again, we will open it up again. And I'm really, really looking forward to that one. But yeah, once again, top 20. It's my first podcast since we made it into the top 20. Thank you so much to everyone that supported me. I look forward to the next couple of years. It's been a wild ride. Yeah. And I start hunting on Sunday, so head along to my socials, check that one out. We will be releasing a couple of new videos as far as the YouTube episodes are concerned. If you haven't yet, head along. The Fella Deer Rat episode is out, and there's some exciting hunting in that one. And I really look forward for you guys to enjoy that. But yeah, guys, once again, from myself, if you are, happy hunting. Until then, stay safe, stay blessed, stay humble. We'll catch up with you guys soon.